Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Wanderer, staring at the view screen with growing concern. Something was wrong out there in the darkness of space. The sensors were picking up strange signals near the Kepler 442 system, and they didn't look friendly. "Captain, I'm reading weapons fire ahead," said Lieutenant Ben Hayes from his station. His fingers moved quickly across the controls. "Two ships. One is badly damaged and trying to run. The other is chasing it down." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "Can you identify them?" Ben worked for another moment before answering. "The damaged ship is Vareth. I recognize their energy signature from the database. The attacking ship is Krell. No doubt about it." A cold feeling settled in Jake's stomach. The Krell were bad news. They were pirates, raiders, and killers who respected only strength. They had been a problem in this sector for years. The Varath were different. They were an old species, insect-like in appearance, and known throughout the galaxy for being smart and calculating. Humans had never worked with them before. There were no treaties, no agreements, nothing. "What do we do, Captain?" asked Amy Parker, the ship's chief engineer. She had left her post below and come to the bridge when the alert went out. "This isn't our fight." Jake knew she was right. The smart move was to stay out of it. The Wanderer was an exploration ship, not a warship. They had some weapons, but nothing compared to what the Krell carried. Getting involved could mean death for his entire crew. And for what? To save aliens they had never even met? But Jake looked at the screen again. The Varath ship was dying. He could see the explosions along its hull, the way it limped through space, trying desperately to escape. Inside that ship were living beings who would be dead in minutes if no one helped them. "Ben, how long until the Krell finish them?" Jake asked. 5 minutes, maybe less. Their shields are almost gone." Jake made his decision. "Take us in. Full speed. Amy, get me everything the engines can give. Ben, arm all weapons." The bridge went quiet for a second. Then Ben spoke up. "Sir? Are you sure? The Krell will turn on us too." "I know," Jake said simply. "But we're not going to sit here and watch them die when we can do something about it. Helm, take us in now." The Wanderer jumped forward, racing toward the battle. The crew moved to their stations without another word of protest. They trusted their captain, even when he made crazy decisions like this one. As they got closer, Jake could see the Krell ship more clearly. It was bigger than the Wanderer and covered in weapons. The Varath ship was smaller, built for speed and science, not war. It didn't stand a chance alone. "Open a channel to the Krell ship," Jake ordered. A moment later, a harsh voice filled the bridge. "Human ship, this does not concern you. Leave now, or be destroyed. This is Captain Jake Morrison of Earthship Wanderer. Break off your attack immediately, or face the consequences." The Krell laughed. It was an ugly sound. "You think your small ship frightens us? We will kill the Varath, and then we will kill you." Jake nodded to Ben. "Show them we're serious. Fire across their bow." The Wanderer's weapons flashed. The energy beams cut through space, missing the Krell ship by just a few meters. It was a warning shot, but it got their attention. "Amy, can you get over to the Varath ship if we keep the Krell busy?" Jake asked. Amy checked her screens. "If you can give me 10 minutes, I can get their shields back online. Maybe repair their engines too." "You've got 8 minutes. Ben, keep firing. Don't let them get a clean shot at either ship." What followed was the longest 8 minutes of Jake's life. The Wanderer danced through space, firing constantly at the Krell ship. Ben was an excellent shot, and he hit their weapons and shields again and again. The Krell returned fire, and the Wanderer shook with each impact. Meanwhile, Amy suited up and took a small repair pod across the gap to the Varath ship. Jake watched her tiny form float through space, while energy beams cut through the darkness around her. His heart pounded in his chest. "Captain, their shields are charging." Amy's voice came through the radio. Give me 2 more minutes for the engines. But the Krell had had enough. They were taking too much damage from the Wanderer's constant attacks. Jake saw them turning away, their engines flaring bright as they prepared to run. "They're leaving," Ben said, surprised. "We actually scared them off." Jake let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "Amy? Status?" "Done. Their engines are back online. They can make it to safety now. Get back here." "Well done, everyone." As Amy returned to the Wanderer, Jake received a message from the Varath ship. The face that appeared on screen was like nothing he had seen before. It looked like a giant mantis, with large compound eyes and clicking mandibles, but Jake could see intelligence in those eyes. "I am Clicking Mandible 7, captain of this vessel," the alien said. Its voice came through a translator, sounding mechanical but clear. "You saved our lives. Why?" Jake thought about the question. "You needed help." That seemed like reason enough. Seven's head tilted in what might have been confusion. "We have no treaty with humans. No trade agreements. You gain nothing from this action. You risked your ship and crew for strangers. This makes no sense to my understanding." "Maybe not," Jake admitted. "But it makes sense to us. We couldn't just watch you die when we could do something about it." Seven was quiet for a long moment. "My people have a tradition for such situations. You have created a debt bond between us. This debt will be recorded and remembered. You don't owe us anything," Jake said. "Just get your crew home safe. That's all we wanted. Nevertheless, the debt exists," Seven insisted. The Varath captain studied Jake carefully through the screen, as if trying to solve a puzzle. "Your species is very strange, Captain Morrison. I will remember this day." After the Varath ship jumped away to safety, Jake sat back in his chair. His crew was celebrating around him. Happy they had all survived. Amy was grinning, and Ben was already telling an exaggerated version of the fight to the rest of the crew. Jake smiled but felt tired. He had made the right choice, he was sure of that. But he wondered if the Krell would come looking for revenge. He wondered if saving the Varath would cause problems for Earth in the future. He had no way of knowing that this simple act of helping strangers would change everything. Not just for him, not just for his crew, but for all of humanity and their place among the stars. That small decision to help when no one expected it would ripple across the galaxy in ways he could never imagine. For now, though, Jake Morrison just ordered his crew to set course for their next destination. They had a mission to complete. The Wanderer jumped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the battle behind them and heading into the unknown future. 3 years had passed since the incident with the Varath ship. Ambassador Kate Sullivan stood in the massive chamber of the Galactic Council on Station Nexus Prime and tried not to feel intimidated. The room was huge, filled with beings from 47 different worlds. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien that Kate had trouble understanding how they even thought or communicated. She had 2 people with her. Dr. Chris Yamato stood on her left, a brilliant scientist who understood more about alien biology than anyone else on Earth. On her right was Commander Dan Cooper, a military advisor with a calm presence that Kate found reassuring. They were here for one purpose: to ask the Galactic Council to accept Earth as a member. It should have been exciting. It should have been a moment of pride. Instead, Kate felt worry growing in her chest. The debate had been going on for hours, and it was not going well. "The humans are too young," said a delegate from the Vosh, a species that looked like floating jellyfish in clear tanks. "They have barely left their own solar system. They know nothing of the true galaxy. They are too emotional," added a Nexari representative, a being made of what looked like living crystal. "They make decisions based on feelings, not logic. This makes them dangerous and unpredictable." Kate wanted to argue, but she had to wait her turn. That was the Council's rule. Everyone got to speak, but in order. She had already given Earth's presentation earlier. Now she had to stand there, and listen as species after species explained why humanity wasn't ready. The worst part was the Krell representative, a large creature named Drex Cool. He stood at his podium with his arms crossed, looking very satisfied with himself. "The humans interfere in matters that do not concern them," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. 3 years ago, one of their ships attacked a Krell vessel without provocation. They are aggressive and cannot be trusted to follow galactic law. Kate knew he was talking about Jake Morrison and the Wanderer. But he was lying about what happened. The Krell had been attacking the Varath, not the other way around. Still, she couldn't respond yet. She had to wait. Chris leaned close and whispered, "This isn't going well. They're going to reject us." Kate nodded slightly. He was probably right. She could count the votes in her head. Too many species were against them. Even the ones who seemed neutral weren't speaking up to defend humanity. Dan touched her arm gently. "We gave it our best shot. If they say no, we'll try again in a few years. Earth will be fine." But Kate didn't want to wait a few years. She had worked so hard for this. Humanity had worked so hard. They had explored peacefully, traded fairly, and tried to be good neighbors in the galaxy. Why wasn't that enough? Then something unexpected happened. "I request permission to speak." The voice came from the Varath section of the chamber. Kate looked up and saw a familiar face. Well, not a face exactly, but she recognized the pattern on the Varath's carapace. It was 7. The captain Jake Morrison had saved 3 years ago. The council leader, an ancient being from a species called the Elders, nodded. "The representative from Varath may speak." 7 moved to the center of the chamber. The Varath walked on 4 legs, with 2 upper limbs that gestured as it spoke. "Honored council members, I wish to share a story. 3 years ago, my ship was dying. We were under attack by Krell pirates in empty space. No one was coming to help us. We had accepted that we would die." The chamber grew quiet. Everyone was listening now. "Then a human ship arrived," 7 continued. "It was small. It was not a warship. The crew had no reason to help us. We had never met humans before. There were no treaties, no agreements, no political benefit for them. But they came anyway." 7 turned to look at Drex Kull. "The Krell representative says humans are aggressive, but I was there. The humans warned the Krell to stop. They fired warning shots. Only when the Krell continued to attack did the humans fight back. They saved my life and the lives of my entire crew. Then, they asked for nothing in return." Kate felt her heart beating faster. She hadn't known 7 would be here. She hadn't known the Varath would speak for humanity. That alone would be a good story, 7 said. But it did not end there. Over the next 3 years, I encountered humans 6 more times. Each time, they were helpful. Each time, they were honest. When they made promises, they kept them. When they said they would do something, they did it. 7 reached into a pouch and pulled out something small. "When my ship was finally retired last year, Captain Morrison somehow learned of it. He sent me this." 7 held up a piece of metal. Even from across the chamber, Kate could see writing on it. It is a piece of his ship's hull. It says, "Friends in the dark," in both our languages. It has no value except as a symbol of friendship. He sent it to me because he remembered. Because to humans, a friend is a friend forever. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates were talking to each other, arguing, discussing. Kate saw several of them looking at the human delegation with new interest. Then another delegate stood up. "I also wish to speak." This one was Pelion, a cat-like species, with 6 legs and golden fur. The elder nodded again. "I am a trade minister for my people," the Pelion said. 2 years ago, we had a colony facing a medical emergency. We needed supplies urgently, but we had little money to pay. Human traders came. They sold us the medicine at a fair price, not the inflated price they could have charged. One trader, a woman named Lisa Chen, even made a second trip at her own expense to deliver more supplies when we needed them. She said she had given her word to help. So, she helped. Another voice spoke up, this time from a reptilian species called the Torven. I am a military officer. During an evacuation of a research station, one of our soldiers was injured and trapped. The humans were already leaving. They were safe, but a human sergeant named Ryan Mitchell came back. He went into a burning building to save my soldier. He nearly died doing it. When I asked him why, he said, I couldn't leave him behind. This was during a time when our species had just finished a border dispute with Earth. More delegates began to stand. One after another, they told stories about humans, about their fairness, about their loyalty, about how they kept their promises, even when it cost them something. Kate listened in amazement. She had no idea so many species had these experiences with humans. Even a delegate from the Vreen spoke. A species so isolated that most people forgot they existed. A human doctor spent 2 years on our world, helping us fight a plague. She asked for no payment. She only wanted to learn about our culture and help us survive. The chamber was buzzing with conversation now. The mood had completely changed. Kate looked at Chris and Dan. They both looked as shocked as she felt. Drexcull stood up, looking angry. These are just stories. They prove nothing about whether humans should join the council. But Seven turned to face him. They prove everything. They prove that humans value honor and loyalty above profit. They prove that when humans say they are your friend, they mean it. How many species in this chamber can say the same? The elder raised one long arm for silence. This council will take a recess. We will vote on Earth's membership after further consideration. All delegates should think carefully about what they have heard today. As the session ended, Kate felt dizzy. Delegates from a dozen different species approached her, wanting to talk, wanting to share more stories about humans they had met. She shook hands, tentacles, paws, and appendages she couldn't even name. Chris was grinning. I think we might actually have a chance now. Dan nodded. Seven changed everything. Those testimonies were powerful. Kate agreed, but she also felt nervous. The Krell delegate had looked furious when the session ended. She had a bad feeling that this wasn't over yet. Drexcull didn't seem like the type to accept defeat easily. She was right to worry. The Krell were already planning their next move, and it would test humanity's loyalty in a way no one expected. The recess lasted 2 hours. Kate Sullivan spent that time in a small waiting room with Chris and Dan, trying to process what had just happened. Delegates kept stopping by to introduce themselves and share their own stories about interactions with humans. A delegate from a species called the Morphians told them about a human engineer named Gary White, who had spent 6 months helping them repair an old space station. He could have finished in 2 months, the Morphian said, moving its tentacles in what seemed like a happy gesture. But he stayed longer to teach our young engineers how to do the repairs themselves. He said teaching was more important than just fixing things. Another visitor was from the Zentari, a species that looked like walking trees. We had a dispute with a human mining company over resource rights on an asteroid, the Zentari explained in a slow, deep voice. We expected lawyers and fights. Instead, the company owner, a man named Paul Johnson, came to speak with us directly. He admitted his company had made a mistake. He gave us the asteroid and helped us set up our own mining operation. He said doing the right thing mattered more than profit. Chris was taking notes on everything. This is incredible. I had no idea our people had made such an impact across so many worlds. Dan was more cautious. It's good, but I'm worried about the Krell. They looked angry when the session ended. Kate shared his concern. The Krell were dangerous, and they didn't like losing face in front of the council. But for now, she had to focus on the upcoming vote. When the council reconvened, the atmosphere in the chamber was different. More delegates seemed interested in the human application now. The elder called the session to order and asked if anyone else wished to speak before the vote. To Kate's surprise, even more delegates stood up. A Minar representative, a being that looked like a living shadow with glowing eyes, spoke first. "My people are traders and information brokers. We deal with every species in the galaxy. In our experience, most species will cheat if they think they can get away with it. But in 5 years of trading with humans, we have never once caught them in a lie. They negotiate hard, yes, but they are always honest. This is so rare that we have started giving humans better deals just because we know we can trust them." A delegate from the Quicks, a species of small, bird-like creatures, came forward next. "We are a small species. We have only 3 colony worlds. Most large species ignore us or push us around. But when human explorers found our home world, they treated us as equals. A human captain named Betty Ross spent weeks learning our language and customs before she even asked to trade. She showed us respect when no one else did. For that, my people will always speak well of humans." Even species that Kate had never heard of shared their stories. A delegate from the Orions told how a human rescue team had saved their planetary leader from a natural disaster. A hive species representative described how humans had helped them fight off a plague that threatened their queen. On and on it went, story after story of humans showing loyalty, keeping promises, and helping others. Seven spoke again, adding more details. "I mentioned the gift Captain Morrison sent me, but I did not tell you what happened next. I sent him a message thanking him. He responded immediately. We have now exchanged more than 50 messages over 3 years. He asks about my family. He shares stories about his crew. He remembers details about my life that I mentioned only once. This is not the behavior of someone doing political favors. This is friendship. Real friendship." The Pelion Trade Minister stood again. "I want to add something. The human trader, Lisa Chen, who helped my colony, I later learned she had to take out a loan to afford that second delivery trip. She lost money helping us. When I tried to pay her back, she refused. She said she made a promise, and that was enough. She did not want money for keeping her word." A quiet voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It belonged to a sentinel, one of the ancient guardian species that rarely participated in council debates. Everyone turned to look. When a sentinel spoke, people listened. "I have lived for 3,000 of your years," the sentinel said, its voice like wind through caves. "I have seen species rise and fall. I have seen empires born and die. In all that time, I have learned that technology and military power mean very little. What matters is character. What matters is whether a species can be trusted." The sentinel moved forward slowly. "These humans are young. Yes. They are emotional. Yes. But I have heard the stories today. I have heard how they treat others. They remind me of the old ways, before the galaxy became cynical and calculating. They remind me of when honor meant something." The chamber was completely silent. Kate held her breath. "I support human membership in this council," the sentinel said. "Not because they are perfect, but because they are exactly what we need. They will remind us all of what we have forgotten." The elder nodded slowly. "Thank you, honored sentinel. Are there any who wish to speak against the human application?" Kate waited. Surely someone would object. But the chamber remained quiet. Even the species that had spoken against humanity earlier seemed reluctant to argue after what they had heard. Then Drex Kull, the Krell representative, stood up. Kate's stomach tightened. "I acknowledge that humans have done good things," Drex Kull said, though he seemed to be forcing the words out. "But I question whether they are ready for the responsibilities of council membership. I propose a test. Known quote. I propose a test." The elder's expression didn't change. "What kind of test?" "A simple one." Drex Kull's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. "Let us see if human loyalty is real or just performance. I have a proposal that will reveal the truth. Kate didn't like where this was going. Neither did Dan, who tensed beside her. Go on, the elder said. Drexkull gestured dramatically. As it happens, Krell forces captured a human merchant ship 2 days ago in the border zones. 12 crew members, including their captain. They are unharmed and well treated. We were planning to ransom them back to Earth, in the usual way. Are unharmed. Kate felt cold. She hadn't heard about any captured ship. Here is my proposal, Drexkull continued. We offer Earth a choice. They can have immediate membership in this council. Approved right now, with no more debate, or they can have their people back. But not both. If they choose to negotiate for the prisoners, their application will be withdrawn for 50 standard years. If they choose council membership, we will release the prisoners eventually, after the usual ransom is paid. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Several delegates objected immediately. This is unfair, shouted the Pelion. This is not how we test species, added a Torvin, but Drexkull held up his hands. It is a simple choice. It tests whether humans truly value loyalty over advancement. If they are as loyal as everyone claims, they will choose their people without hesitation. If they are ambitious like everyone else, they will take the council seat. Either way, we learn the truth. The elder looked troubled but nodded. The test is harsh, but not illegal under council law. Ambassador Sullivan, your delegation may have 1 hour to consult with your government and provide an answer. Kate stood up, her mind racing. 1 hour to make an impossible choice. 1 hour to decide between humanity's future in the galactic community and 12 lives. She looked at Chris and Dan. Their faces showed the same shock she felt. As they walked toward the communication room to contact Earth, Kate already knew what the answer would be. She had heard all those stories about human loyalty. She knew her species. There was really only one choice humanity could make. The question was whether that choice would save them or doom them, and she wouldn't know the answer until it was too late to change it. Kate Sullivan sat in the communication room, staring at the screen. She had just finished speaking with Earth's president and the entire Security Council. The conversation had taken 15 minutes. The decision had taken less than 5 seconds. Are you sure this is what you want me to say? Kate had asked, needing to hear it one more time. President Ellen Harris had looked tired but certain. Ambassador, there is no decision to make. We choose our people. Always. Tell the council we want our crew back. Tell them we don't want membership if it costs us 12 lives. But ma'am, this is everything we've worked for. This is our chance to join the galactic community. Kate, listen to me. The president leaned closer to the camera. If we have to choose between being part of their club or being true to who we are, then we were never meant to be in their club. Those 12 people on that ship trusted us to bring them home. We don't abandon that trust for political gain. Not ever. Now Kate stood outside the council chamber with Chris and Dan. She had 30 minutes left before she had to give her answer. Her hands were shaking slightly. Earth made the right call, Dan said quietly. I know it's hard, but it's right. Chris nodded. If we chose the council seat, we would prove Drexkull correct. We would prove that human loyalty is just an act. We can't do that. I know, Kate said. I just wish there was another way. She took a deep breath and walked back into the chamber. The session was already in progress. Other business was being conducted while they waited for her answer. When the elder saw her enter, he paused the current discussion. Ambassador Sullivan, does your government have an answer? Kate walked to the center of the chamber. Every eye, compound eye, sensor, and visual organ turned toward her. The weight of the moment pressed down on her shoulders. Yes, honored elder, Earth has made its decision. She paused, then spoke clearly. We choose our people. We request negotiations for the immediate release of the captured merchant vessel and its crew. We withdraw our application for council membership. End quote. Also, we withdraw our application for council membership. End quote. Bintalan C. The chamber was silent for 3 long seconds. Then, noise exploded from every direction. Some delegates were shouting approval. Others seemed shocked. A few were arguing with their neighbors. Drex Kull sat at his podium looking extremely satisfied. He had won. He had forced humanity to give up their dream of joining the council. He had proven that he could manipulate them, using their own loyalty against them. A wise choice, Drex Kull said loudly, making sure everyone could hear him. It shows humans at least understand what matters to them. We will begin ransom negotiations immediately. But Kate wasn't looking at him. She was looking at Seven. The Vareth diplomat's compound eyes were fixed on her, unblinking. Something in Seven's posture had changed. But Kate couldn't read Vareth body language well enough to understand what it meant. Earth will not pay ransom, Kate said firmly. That money is needed to support the families of the crew during this difficult time. However, we are willing to negotiate in good faith for their release. Commander Cooper will lead our negotiation team, Kate continued, gesturing to Dan. We also request that the Galactic Council send observers to ensure fair treatment of the prisoners during negotiations. The Elder nodded. That is reasonable. Commander Cooper, you may begin work with the Krell representatives immediately. Dan stepped forward and bowed slightly to the Elder. Then he looked at Drex Kull. Where are the prisoners being held? I want to verify their condition before we begin any negotiations. Drex Kull's smile faded a bit. They are on Krell Station 7, in the border zone. They are fine. You can verify this through standard communication channels. I want to see them in person, Dan said calmly. That's non-negotiable. Teen. Before Drex Kull could respond, something strange started happening. Delegates from other species began standing up, one after another. First, Seven stood. Then the Pelion trade minister. Then the Torven military officer. Then more and more, until nearly half the council chamber was standing. Seven spoke first. Honored Elder, I request permission to send Vareth observers to witness these negotiations. We want to ensure our friends are treated fairly. The Pelion delegate spoke next. Pelion trade ships will be available to transport human negotiators safely to the border zone. The Torven officer added. Torven security forces volunteer to escort the human delegation. We will ensure no harm comes to them. Wow. More voices joined in. Species after species offered help. Ship escorts, medical teams, legal advisors, intelligence support. It kept coming, an avalanche of offers that no one had expected. Kate stood in the center of it all, overwhelmed. She looked at Chris, who seemed just as shocked. Even Dan, who rarely showed surprise, had his eyes wide. Drex Kull was no longer smiling. This is not necessary. The Krell will conduct fair negotiations. Council observation is sufficient. But the Elder raised his hand. The offers are made freely by sovereign species. I cannot refuse them. Commander Cooper, you will have more support than I think anyone anticipated. Over the next hour, the situation became clearer. Dozens of species were mobilizing resources to help Earth. Not because they had to, not because of any treaty or agreement, but simply because they wanted to. Kate received message after message from delegates offering assistance. A Zentari representative approached Kate during a break. My ship has medical facilities. If your people are injured, we can treat them. A Minar trader found her in the corridor. I have contacts in the border zone. I can get intelligence on Krell Station 7's layout and security. No charge. On Krell. Reliction. On Krell. Even species Kate had barely heard of were reaching out. A delegate from the Quicks pressed a small device into her hand. Emergency beacon. If your people are in danger during negotiations, activate it. My people will come. Chris was recording everything on his data pad, trying to keep track of all the offers. Kate, this is incredible. I've never seen anything like this in galactic politics. Species don't just offer help like this. There's always a price. Always an angle. Not this time, Kate said softly. She was beginning to understand something important. They're not doing this for Earth. They're doing it because of what Earth chose. We proved that the loyalty they saw in individual humans exists in our entire species. We chose people over politics. Dan came over with an update. We've got 3 warships from the Verath, offering escort. The Torven are sending commandos. The Pelion have intelligence assets. Kate, we haven't even asked for most of this. They're just volunteering. I know. Kate felt emotions rising in her chest. Pride, hope, gratitude. I didn't expect this. Gratitude. 7 approached them, moving on 4 legs with the upper limbs held in a formal position. Ambassador Sullivan, I want you to understand something. What happened today will be remembered. The galaxy has watched humanity for 3 years. We have seen your traders, your explorers, your scientists, your soldiers. We have seen you keep your word again and again. But today was different. How? Kate asked. Today you were tested at the highest level. You could have chosen power and advancement. Most species would have. The Krell expected you to. But you chose loyalty instead. Even knowing it would cost you dearly. That single choice has changed how every species in this chamber sees humanity. 7's mandibles clicked in what Kate had learned was the Verath equivalent of a smile. Drexcall thought he was humiliating you. Instead, he gave you something far more valuable than council membership. He gave you proof of your character. And that proof has resonated across the galaxy. Kate looked around the chamber. Delegates were gathered in groups, talking urgently. She saw several, looking her way, and nodding. Something big was happening. Something she didn't fully understand yet. What happens now? She asked 7. The Verath diplomat's eyes gleamed. Now we see if the Krell understand what they have done. They thought they were testing human loyalty. Instead, they tested galactic loyalty to humans. The results are about to surprise everyone. Kate wanted to ask more questions. But the Elder was calling the session back to order. She returned to her seat, her mind spinning with possibilities. Whatever came next, she knew one thing for certain. Earth had made the right choice. Even if it meant waiting 50 years to apply again, they had stayed true to who they were. But as the session continued, Kate began to realize that maybe they wouldn't have to wait 50 years after all. The looks on the faces around her suggested something else was coming. Something unexpected. Something that would change everything. 6 hours after Kate Sullivan made her announcement, something impossible started happening. It began with the Verath. Honored Elder, 7 announced formally. The Verath hierarchy is deploying 3 warships to the border zone. We will ensure the safety of the human delegation during negotiations. The Elder nodded. That was unusual but not unheard of. But then the Pelion delegate stood. The Pelion Trade Federation is sending our intelligence network to gather information on Krell Station 7. We will share all findings with the humans and with this council. Before anyone could respond, the Torven officer stood. Torven commandos are mobilizing. We volunteer to assist in any rescue operation if negotiations fail. Then more delegates stood. The Minar, the Zentari, the Quicks, the Orions, the Hive, even the Vreen, who had not left their home system for military purposes in 200 years, announced they were sending their advanced stealth ship. Kate watched in growing amazement as species after species pledged ships, resources, and personnel. This wasn't just offering to help anymore. This was something bigger. Much bigger. What's happening? Chris whispered to her. This looks like they're preparing for war. Dan was equally confused. I've studied galactic military history. I've never seen anything like this. These species aren't even allied with each other. No. Within 3 hours, the number of ships heading to the border zone had grown to 40, then 60, then 90. The council chamber became a coordination center as species that had never worked together before tried to organize their movements. Drex Kull had stopped looking satisfied. Now, he looked worried. He stood up and tried to speak several times. But delegates kept cutting him off with more pledges of support for the humans. "This is unnecessary!" Drex Kull finally shouted loud enough to be heard. "We will release the prisoners through normal negotiations. There is no need for this military buildup." Seven turned to face the Krell delegate. "You created this situation. You thought you could test human loyalty and humiliate them. You thought wrong." A Pelian delegate added, "You also tested our loyalty. You tested whether we meant what we said about humans being worthy of respect. We will not fail that test." "The humans chose their people over power," said a Torvin. "Now we choose to stand with humans. It is simple." More voices joined in. Species after species, explaining why they were sending ships. The reasons varied, but the theme was the same. Humans had proven their loyalty, time and again. Now it was time for the galaxy to prove its loyalty to humans. Drex Kull looked at the Elder desperately. "This is against council law. You cannot allow a military mobilization over a simple prisoner negotiation." The Elder was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke carefully. "I am not ordering any mobilization. These species are acting independently. Each one has the sovereign right to move their ships where they wish. I cannot stop them. And council law does not forbid it." Kate felt like she was in a dream. She pulled up a star map on her datapad and looked at the border zone. The display was filling with markers showing incoming ships. Verath destroyers, Pelion scouts, Torvin assault carriers, Minar intelligence vessels. Species she had barely heard of were sending whatever they had. "Kate," Dan said quietly, showing her his own display. "The count is up to 142 ships from 23 different species. This is the largest volunteer fleet in Council history." "But why?" Kate asked. "We didn't ask for this. We just wanted to negotiate." Seven was suddenly beside her. "You still do not understand. Let me explain. In the galaxy, most species view loyalty as a transaction. You help me, I help you. We keep score. But humans are different. You help others without keeping score. You form friendships that last beyond usefulness. You remember small kindnesses for years." Seven gestured around the chamber. "Every species here has experienced that. We have all seen humans be loyal when it cost them something. We have all been treated as friends, not assets. And now, when humans are tested, when they prove their loyalty once more by choosing their people over power, we realize something." "What?" Kate asked. "That loyalty should not be one-sided. If humans value loyalty so deeply, then we must show them we have learned that lesson. We must be loyal to them in return, not as a transaction, but as true friends would be." A new voice spoke from behind them. It was the ancient sentinel who had spoken earlier. "Young human, in my 3,000 years, I have never seen what is happening today. Your species has accomplished something remarkable. You have made friends who will go to war for you without being asked. That is the rarest thing in the universe." Kate felt tears forming in her eyes. She looked at Chris and Dan, and saw similar emotions on their faces. "Honored Elder," a new voice called out. It was a delegate Kate didn't recognize, from a small species called the Phoenix. "My people wish to join the volunteer fleet. We only have one ship, but we offer it freely." "As do we," said another small species. "And us." More pledges kept coming. The number climbed past 160, then 170. The council had never seen anything like it. Drex Kull stood up one more time. His face showed fear now. We will release the prisoners. Immediately. No ransom, no negotiations. We will deliver them to neutral space within 6 hours. Not good enough, Seven said coldly. The fleet will wait in the border zone until the prisoners are safely returned. All of them. Unharmed. With full medical examinations. Drex Kull looked around desperately for support but found none. Even other aggressive species were staying quiet. No one wanted to stand against this unprecedented coalition. Fine, Drex Kull said, defeated. It will be done. But Seven wasn't finished. There is one more thing this council must address. We have just witnessed something historic. 23 species have volunteered to stand with humanity. Ships are already en route to defend human interests. This has never happened before. Seven turned to the Elder. I move that we hold an immediate vote on Earth's council membership. Not in 50 years. Now. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates objected, but far more were nodding agreement. The Pelion delegate stood. I second the motion. Third, said the Torven. Fourth, added the Minar. More voices joined in. The Elder raised his hands for silence. This is highly irregular, the Elder said. The humans withdrew their application. Then they can resubmit it, Seven said simply. Right now. And we can vote right now. Kate looked at Chris and Dan. Should she? Could she? Chris nodded. Do it. Dan agreed. We've come this far. Kate stood up, her heart pounding. Earth resubmits its application for Galactic Council membership. All in favor of immediate consideration? The Elder asked. A forest of hands, tentacles, appendages, and limbs rose into the air. Kate tried to count, but gave up. It was overwhelming. Very well, the Elder said. We will vote. All in favor of granting Earth full membership in the Galactic Council. Kate held her breath. The votes came in electronically, displayed on a large screen. The number climbed rapidly. 40 species voted yes. 45. 46. When the final vote appeared, Kate's legs felt weak. 47 votes yes. 0 votes no. Earth had been admitted by unanimous decision. It had never happened before, in Council history. The chamber erupted in cheers and various alien sounds of celebration. Delegates rushed toward the human delegation. Kate found herself being congratulated by species from across the galaxy. Seven approached her quietly while the celebration continued. You understand now what has happened? Kate nodded, tears running down her face freely now. We chose loyalty over power. And in return, we received both. More than that, Seven said. You received something far more valuable. You received friends. True friends. Species who will stand with you not because they must, but because they want to. That is the real reward. That is what loyalty buys in the end. Chris was laughing and crying at the same time. Dan was shaking hands with a Torven officer, who kept patting him on the back, hard enough to make him stumble. Kate's datapad buzzed. A message from the Wanderer. From Captain Jake Morrison himself. Heard the news. I knew you'd make us proud. The crew and I are celebrating. Seven sends his regards, and says to tell you he always pays his debts. Whatever that means. Kate smiled through her tears. She messaged back. It means we made the right choice. 3 years ago, and today. It means loyalty matters. Tell Seven thank you. For everything. That evening, as Kate stood at the observation window of Nexus Prime, she watched ships from dozens of worlds gathering in formation. The volunteer fleet was dispersing now that the crisis was over. The human prisoners were already on their way home, unharmed and treated well once the Krell realized they had no choice. What are you thinking? Dan asked, joining her at the window. I'm thinking about how we got here, Kate said. One captain making one decision to help strangers 3 years ago. That's all it took. One act of loyalty, that started a chain reaction across the entire galaxy. Jake Morrison probably had no idea what he was starting, Chris said, coming to stand with them. None of us did, Kate agreed. But that's the thing about loyalty. You don't do it because you expect rewards. You do it because it's right. The rewards come anyway, in ways you never imagined. She looked at the stars, at the ships, at the vast galaxy that humanity was now officially part of. Earth was no longer alone. They had friends, real friends, friends who had proven they would stand beside humanity when it mattered most. And all because humans had done one simple thing. They had kept their word. They had stayed loyal. They had chosen people over politics, honor over advancement, friendship over power. In a cynical galaxy that had forgotten the value of such things, humanity had reminded everyone what truly mattered. And the galaxy had rewarded them in the most unbelievable way possible, with loyalty in return.